I want you to remember Marianne DeRosa before you die.
The movie opens with three men hunting together in a dense forest. As they pursue their prey, Dale decides to break away from the group. Just as he lines up his shot, a bald man suddenly emerges from the shadows, shoving Dale into a deep ravine before finishing him off. The assailant is Ryan Verrett, a former police officer consumed by vengeance after the brutal murder of his family years ago. Dale was one of the men responsible for the murders, and after taking him out, Ryan set off for a small town called Hope. The town was ruled by a ruthless motorcycle gang, so feared that even the sheriff dared not oppose them. But Ryan wasn't concerned. He had a mission to complete. On his way, he stopped at a gas station to gather supplies and inquire about a place to stay. The innkeeper, Kirby, informed Ryan about the town's only motel, run by a young woman named Darcy.
Ask for Darcy at the motel.
Thanks.
With most people avoiding Hope, her motel rarely saw any guests. When Darcy met Ryan, she was taken aback by his audacity in coming to such a perilous town. However, Ryan remained unfazed, simply stating that he had unfinished business there. Meanwhile, FBI agent Frank was strategizing with his team to capture Dale, a ruthless criminal wanted not only for murder, but also for a series of violent assaults. As they spoke, another agent hurried into the room.
Somebody just turned Dale Burrows into abstract art,
reporting that Dale had been found dead. The scene then shifted to a haunting flashback of Ryan's past, back when he was still a police officer. In that tragic memory, he was celebrating with family and friends when a gang of criminals suddenly stormed in, unleashing a hail of bullets on the unsuspecting crowd. Chaos erupted as gunfire filled the air, mercilessly cutting down many lives, including those Ryan held most dear. Drake Santiago, the ruthless leader of the criminal gang, masterminded the brutal massacre as an act of vengeance against the police officers who had once put him behind bars. Consumed by hatred, he set his sights on their families, determined to make them suffer. Ryan, one of his intended victims, barely escaped with his life despite being shot. Back in the present, Ryan was driving through town when something caught his attention. A row of motorcycles lined up in front of a building, their presence hinting at trouble. One of the bikers stormed out of the building, cursing as a nearby dog barked relentlessly at him. Irritated, he pulled out his gun, ready to silence the animal for good. But before he could fire, Ryan stepped in, stopping him cold. With swift, brutal efficiency, Ryan delivered a punishing beatdown, leaving the man writhing on the ground. The commotion quickly drew the attention of the other gang members inside. One by one, they emerged, their eyes locking onto the scene, until finally, their leader, Drake Santiago.
Got a little problem here. Not anymore.
However, despite staring directly at Ryan, Drake showed no sign of recognition, a telling reminder of the countless lives he had taken without a second thought. Despite Ryan having taken down one of his men, Drake chose to ignore the incident for the time being.
We're gonna have to continue this conversation later.
You just gonna text me? Or you want me to wait here?
However, Ryan's presence still unsettled him, prompting Drake to instruct his younger brother, Rexo, to discreetly tail the bald stranger. Following morning, Rexo reported back with unexpected news.
He's ready.
What deal?
A local club owner had refused to pay their protection fees. Infuriated, Drake devised a brutal solution.
You know what a deadbeat is? Came out of the American Civil War.
Hey, I just need a little bit of time. I never do that.
Here's the deal. 1 round.
He challenged the man to a 1-round boxing match, making a bold wager if the club owner won. Drake would never demand another cent from him again.
1 round.
Despite his age, Drake remained remarkably strong, effortlessly overpowering his opponent, a towering, broad-shouldered man, in the boxing match. However, rather than delivering a final, punishing blow, he chose to spare the man. After all, dead men didn't pay debts, and Drake still intended to collect. But protection fees were just one stream of income for Drake and his gang. Their true wealth came from a web of criminal operations, including the lucrative meth labs they controlled throughout the region. Yet, even as he managed his growing empire, Drake never let his guard down. His suspicion toward Ryan lingered, and he made sure to keep a close watch on the mysterious newcomer. That evening, Rexo arrived at Darcy's motel.
Well, what is it?
You got a new guy staying here. Big guy. What's his name?
No, I'm not.
Y'all alone here?
What do you want, Rex?
When Darcy refused to answer, his frustration quickly turned to menace.
What are you looking at?
Nothing.
You afraid of me?
No, I'm not.
I don't know why we always fight. They all say yes. Verd. Ryan Verd.
Ryan was inside the motel and had overheard everything. Without hesitation, he stepped in and dealt with Rexo swiftly, taking him down with force. As Rexo lay defeated, Darcy's expression turned to one of concern. She warned Ryan that Rexo wasn't just any thug, he was the younger brother of Drake Santiago, the ruthless leader of the motorcycle gang that ruled the town with an iron grip. Drake would undoubtedly seek vengeance once he learned his brother had been harmed, but Ryan was unfazed. Determined to strike a decisive blow, he dragged Rexo to the gang's drug lab, tied him to a car.
Okay. All right, look. My brother, man. You let me go?
You know why I'm here.
And sent it hurtling straight into the facility. Moments later, a massive explosion erupted, engulfing the entire lab in flames and sealing Rexo's fate. As the fire raged behind him, Ryan walked away, satisfied that his plan had succeeded. Not long after, Drake and his gang arrived at the smoldering wreckage, their panic turning to fury as they took in the devastation before them. All they could do was stand helplessly as the raging flames reduced the lab to ashes. When they finally discovered Rexo's lifeless body, Drake was consumed by fury, his grief fueling an unrelenting thirst for vengeance. Not long after the explosion, the sheriff and a deputy arrived to investigate the scene. Drake's gang remained on site, their presence a clear display of dominance. Without hesitation, Drake approached the sheriff, his voice laced with menace, as he issued a chilling warning if the sheriff dared to interfere with the gang's operations. He would personally ensure that the lawman's entire family paid the price. Too terrified to defy Drake, the sheriff remained silent, though a plan was already forming in his mind. If he allowed the gang to operate unchecked, perhaps he could prevent even greater bloodshed from consuming the town. The following day, Ryan set his sights on one of the gang's meth transport trucks heading to another city. He tailed the vehicle silently, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Once out of sight, he deflated one of its tires, forcing the driver to pull over. The moment the unsuspecting man stepped out to inspect the damage, Ryan struck, slamming his head against the truck's door with brutal precision. Without a second thought, Ryan rigged the vehicle with explosives and stepped back as the truck erupted into a fiery explosion, reducing the gang's cargo to nothing but ash. A gang member witnessed the explosion and wasted no time reporting it to Drake. When Drake learned that the truck had been carrying a significant shipment of meth, his fury was uncontrollable. This was a devastating financial loss. Enraged and thirsty for revenge, he was determined to find the person responsible. His suspicions quickly turned to Ryan. To confirm his hunch, Drake ordered his men to seize Kirby and bring him to the gang's hideout. Once there, Drake demanded that Kirby dig into Ryan's past and uncover his true identity. The hunt for vengeance had begun. If Ryan was behind the attack, Drake wouldn't think twice about killing him. Terrified and left with no other option, Kirby reluctantly complied with Drake's orders. That very day, he began his investigation. Kirby started by inspecting Ryan's car, which was parked near the motel, hoping to uncover any clues about his past. As he searched, Ryan unexpectedly stepped out of the motel and caught him red-handed. Trying to mask his nervousness, Kirby quickly extended an invitation, suggesting that Ryan join him for a drink at his house, conveniently located not far from the motel. Ryan was not someone who could be easily fooled. As soon as they arrived at Kirby's house, he wasted no time and demanded to know why Kirby had been searching his car. Under pressure, Kirby reluctantly confessed that Drake had ordered him to investigate Ryan. Before they could continue the conversation, the roar of a motorcycle outside interrupted them. A moment later, one of Drake's enforcers, known as Crab, stormed in and challenged Ryan to a fight. The battle was swift despite Crab's size and strength. Ryan effortlessly overpowered him. However, instead of finishing him off, Ryan chose to let him go, sending a clear message that he was not to be underestimated. Meanwhile, Drake pressed forward with his investigation and met with the police chief. During their conversation, he uncovered a crucial detail. Ryan wasn't just some drifter but a former police officer who had left the force after his family was brutally murdered. Pleased with the valuable information, Drake handed the police chief a wad of cash as a token of appreciation. However, later that night, under the cover of darkness, Drake and his men arrived at Kirby's house while he lay fast asleep, their intentions far from friendly. When Drake learned that Kirby had failed to uncover any useful information about Ryan, his disappointment quickly turned to anger. As punishment, he ordered Crab, one of his most ruthless enforcers, to deal with Kirby. The next morning, Ryan discovered Kirby's lifeless body. Realizing that Drake's gang was responsible, he knew it was time to act. Without hesitation, he stormed into one of Drake's clubs and swiftly took down every gang member in sight, leaving no one standing. Ryan then captured Crab, shoved him into the trunk of his car, and executed him without hesitation. As a brutal message to Drake, he dumped Crab's lifeless body right in front of the gang's headquarters. When Drake discovered the fate of his trusted enforcer, his fury was uncontrollable. He immediately rallied his remaining men, ordering them to arm themselves. This was now an all-out hunt for Ryan. That night, at the inn, Darcy was startled by unusual noises outside. Instinctively, she grabbed her handgun, ready for a confrontation. But before she could act, Ryan, recognizing the imminent threat, swiftly urged her to take cover behind the front desk, knowing the danger was just moments away. A few minutes later, the front door creaked open, and Drake's men cautiously stepped inside. Ryan remained perfectly still, waiting for them to move closer. The moment they were within range, he gave Darcy a quick signal to cut the lights. Darkness swallowed the room, followed by the deafening roar of gunfire. Chaos erupted in the pitch-black space. When the gunfire ceased, Darcy hesitated before switching the lights back on. What she saw left her speechless. All of Drake's men lay motionless on the floor, dead. Ryan, untouched, knew the inn was no longer safe. Without wasting a second, he grabbed Darcy and quickly led her away to find a new place to hide. Unfortunately, Ryan was unaware that more of Drake's men were waiting in ambush outside. The moment he stepped out, they sprang into action, overwhelming him in a brutal assault. Outnumbered and caught off guard, Ryan fought back fiercely, but was eventually beaten unconscious. When he came to, he found himself bound to a chair in the gang's headquarters, his arms tightly restrained, rendering him powerless. Beside him, Darcy had also been captured. Standing before them, Drake smirked coldly, savoring the moment. He leaned in and declared with chilling certainty that they were both going to die, but not before he made Darcy suffer first. Drake gave a nod to one of his henchmen, signaling him to torture Ryan before disappearing into the next room. The enforcer, a towering brute, wasted no time, delivering brutal blows to Ryan. But what he didn't realize was that Ryan had been silently working to free himself. In a sudden burst of strength, Ryan broke free from his restraints and launched a fierce counterattack. Within moments, he overpowered the hulking man, taking him down with ruthless efficiency. Wasting no time, Ryan pressed forward, navigating through the corridors of the gang's headquarters, a repurposed ship determined to finish what he started. Ryan tore through Drake's henchmen with relentless precision, effortlessly taking them down one by one. No matter how hard they fought, they were no match for him. Eventually, he found Darcy bound and gagged, her eyes filled with fear. Without hesitation, he freed her, and together they began searching for a way off the ship. But escape wouldn't come easy. Ryan knew Drake wouldn't let them go without a fight. Sensing that the final battle was inevitable, Ryan turned to Darcy and urged her to leave while she still could. This was his fight, and he was ready to finish it once and for all. As the tension thickened, Drake's cold voice cut through the air. He finally remembered Ryan, the cop whose family he had slaughtered. He had assumed Ryan had died that night, but now, standing face to face with him, he realized just how wrong he had been. Without another word, the fight erupted into a brutal clash. Drake fought with raw strength, but Ryan was faster, more precise. Blow after blow, he outmaneuvered his enemy, until finally Drake collapsed to the ground, defeated. Ryan took a breath, believing it was over. But Drake wasn't done. Wounded yet relentless, he staggered back, his hands slipping behind him. In a final act of desperation, he seized a knife and lunged at Ryan from behind. Just as Drake lunged with the knife, a gunshot rang out. FBI agent Frank had arrived just in time, putting a bullet through Drake before he could strike. The notorious gang leader fell lifeless to the ground, bringing an end to his reign of terror. With Drake dead, the FBI saw this as their chance to dismantle the gang once and for all. However, Frank made a surprising decision. He chose not to arrest Ryan. In his eyes, the world still needed men like him. Before leaving town, Ryan exchanged a final word with Frank, promising that their paths would cross again. As the film draws to a close, a striking image appears Ryan. Now, he's back to finish what he started, determined to hunt down every last one of them. His vengeance is relentless, his mission clear. No one who destroyed his life will walk away. And if there's one takeaway from this story, it's this: if you ever plan on taking down an entire gang, it helps to be a former cop with a vendetta and a knack for making things go up in flames.